Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Julie Livingston with Want Leverage Communications, here for another edition of PR Patter, my semi-weekly show on that really brings in great conversations with the amazing people from across my marketing and public relations network. And today, I'm really delighted to talk about how to create a social media strategy that will provide return on investment with my guest, Lauren Ramsey of Betsy Bash. Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So, Lauren is a social media strategist and the CEO of Betsy Bash, a boutique agency that delivers engaging and profitable social media strategies for brands. A certified Sprout social provider partner, the Betsy Bash team is a group of tight knit creatives and designers who help grow brands by expertly navigating digital marketing and social media trends. They consistently create unique content that speaks to an audience and engaging communication that converts to sales. I like that, Lauren. Born into a life of travel and new experiences, Lauren has lived all over the world and she's spent her life adapting to new environments and cultures. This prepared her to use analytical thinking and different perspectives to work with teams, tackle complicated problems from a place of efficiency and curiosity, and to discover exceptional solutions. That is so cool.
Thank you. We enjoy it.
So, Lauren, before we get started and into our conversation, tell us a little bit more about your backstory. How you kind of got into this, and perhaps maybe some of the travel that you've done and how that's kind of contributed to your style of thinking.
100%. So, I grew up overseas, and so I didn't come to the United States until I was about 8 years old. So I had pre-K in Indonesia, kindergarten and first grade in India, second grade in Venezuela, and then finally came to the States for third grade. And I think that really shaped my mind differently, where I was able to see culture after culture after culture after culture, and really understand that we're all the same. We just do things a little differently, and that's beautiful. So when the internet came out, I thought, oh my gosh, I could find my friends from, kindergarten, first
Right.
grade, because I just lost touch once I moved to the States. And then when social media came out, I thought, oh, this is it. This is how the world is going to connect. And that's what got me excited about it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Are you multilingual?
Oh, I wish. Every time I would learn a language, you would move.
You move on. Right,
Yeah.
right. No,
But
I
apparently my
understand.
first words were in Indonesian. So
That's so
yeah.
funny. So, how do we create social media strategies that are rooted in analytics and guarantee a return on one's investment?
Yes. So, social media has become very, very robust from where we started to where we are today. And you can't rely on, just throwing something out on social and it doing well anymore. Maybe back in the early days you could. So, what we tell our clients is let's figure out some goals that you want to accomplish as a business. And then let's make sure we can accomplish those with social media as well. Social media can support those goals. So if you're trying to sell more of a certain product, let's talk about that more on social. Let's talk to people that have bought the previous version, ask them what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it, start some conversations. So it starts there, coming up with a goal for the business that can be supported by social, and then driving the results around that. So I know we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but measuring that results, did they engage? Did they click a link? Did they purchase something? Did your sales go up X% once you started this strategy? That's really how you can pull data out that will help you drive sales.
Would you say that your work is more product and service oriented because you're doing selling, or can it be more reputation building, or both?
It's both. Yeah, it's both. We have some clients that just work with us on the reputation management piece, and we build their communities. We've taken clients from 700 followers to 700,000 followers. We've taken Facebook groups from 200 to 3,000, and kept them engaged and excited about being in those groups or communities. But of course, we also love to do the other side too, which is creating the content and running the ads that really get eyes on the content.
That's great. So you do the advertising as well as the
Yeah,
regular
because
content.
yeah, today it's almost impossible to get results off of just organic efforts alone. Instagram and Facebook have made it really difficult to be seen in the noise of everybody that's on those platforms,
Right.
without some sort of paid component, So if we're not doing it, we want to make sure somebody on their team is doing it, because it's critical to actually having those pieces of content seen, that everybody worked so hard on.
So it kind of all has to dovetail.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. So how do you tailor your approach to social based on the analytics?
hmm So we like to build, we start with those 3 goals, right? So what are the 3 business goals that you want to accomplish? How can social support those? And then what are the metrics that we need to measure to make sure that those goals are
No,
supporting
wait
that?
a second. You said three goals?
Yeah, we like to start with 3 business goals.
Explain
Mhm.
that. That's interesting.
Oh, okay, sure. So, I think there's usually more than one major goal that people are trying to accomplish, right? And not all of them will be seasonally ready, So you might want to sell one product that is more towards the winter or towards the summer, but it's still an important goal for the business that year. Or maybe there's a general goal, like you want to get more new customers to your brand, um, that is year round, right? It's kind of evergreen goal. So we like to have a mix of those, and then we report on those every quarter to see, okay, how are we doing against the goals that we set out this year?
Cool. Okay. So I'm always watching trends for my
Mhm.
clients, and I know that you are too. How does embracing the current social media trends kind of lift up and elevate a brand? And what are some of the trends that you've been seeing?
Sure. So trends are so much fun. The best way to find out what the trend is to participate in the social media
Right, because
platform.
things are constantly in flux.
Yes, constantly. So it's really fun. Sometimes we get to wake up and the algorithm has changed, So things change pretty frequently. So I would say being active on the platforms is your first major way to know what's happening in your industry also, because they might change based on who you're trying to reach. Um, we have an internal process where as a team, we're always looking for trends, right? And so that helps because we each have different perspectives, we each have different interests, and so we get different trends onto our feeds. And so we bring those discussions together and figure out, okay, this is a trend, but which of our clients would benefit from this trend, And then we come up with an idea that is like, maybe not the exact same video as somebody put out, maybe it's like a flat lay with a breakfast setup and, they come in and light a candle and walk away. Like, we don't have to do that exact same thing, right? But we can get inspiration from it and maybe use the audio, which is probably more the trending element of it. Um, so that's one way that we bring trends to our clients. And that said, not every video has to be a trend, right? There's just some messaging that just needs to go out, and it can be consistently branded, but it doesn't have to be all the bells and whistles, you know. But you do want to get trends in there because that's what the algorithm really is looking for, and that's what the consumers are looking for, you know. So if it's trending with consumers or your end user, then you want to be a part of that conversation if it makes sense for your brand.
How does authenticity play into this?
hmm
That was the word of the year by Merriam Webster.
I believe it. I believe it. So I think what's interesting is, social media really fell into the laps of millennials, right? And so millennials took the charge and figured out Facebook and made Instagram and Snapchat and all these fun apps. But somewhere along the way, we decided that we needed to be perfect and amazing. And everything is great. Nothing is terrible. And that's not really how life is, right? So Gen
Not the
Z,
last time I looked, no.
yeah, not my life, that's for sure. Um, and then Gen Z grew up watching millennials thinking, they're not living in the house with a pool. That's a Holiday Inn, pool setup. Like they
Right.
don't live there. And just seeing us kind of make these situations look better than they are, right? So when Gen Z started to get onto social media, they're like, we're not going to do that. That's silly. And so they really took the charge of let's be authentic. Like, show me who you really are. Talk about what is terrible in your life so that we can relate on that, because everybody has something a little bit not great on their life, right? They made things really simple. They said, okay, I have a story I want to tell, but I really need 3 people for this story. But I'm going to put sunglasses on for one person. I'm going to just be myself for the next person. And I'm going to put a hat on for the third
Right,
person.
right.
And I'm going to film it, like they're just going to go ahead and do it. And so I really love that approach. And I think it's just interesting, that the landscape of social has shifted that direction, because I think it's a good direction.
I like that. And I guess that dovetails into embracing imperfection.
Yes, yes. Uh, it's like I think we all want everything we produce as a brand to be polished, right? Maybe not perfect, but polished. On brand, the right fonts, nicely laid out if it's a graphic. Um, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the exact, um, what's a good way to say it?
Like a Hollywood a lot like a Hollywood set.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. It doesn't need to be that. There's certain things that need to happen, like if you're gonna do a lip sync on TikTok, like that has to be perfect. You know?
okay.
Yeah, because you don't wanna be saying something that's not coming out of the audio, right? Um, but other than that, just have fun with it. People want to see um how do I say this? The imperfections of life, but not the evidence of not trying, right? So if
I
you
see.
try a lip sync and it's not quite lip syncing up, but you're like, well, whatever, it's not perfect, I'm going to post it. People aren't going to engage with that as easily, because they think, oh, they didn't even try,
Right,
They
right.
probably could have recorded it 5 more times and gotten there.
Are there any
Um,
platforms that I mean, we've got so many platforms now to choose from,
mhm.
and we're going to talk about that in a minute and how do you do make that choice. But are there some that are more um, right for showing imperfections or being authentic than others, or does it not matter?
It's an interesting question. I would say Snapchat is really um, intimate, right? Like you're typically Snapchatting with just your friends, or a small extension from that. So that definitely doesn't have to be perfect. That can just be like what's going on with your day, something that you saw that you really loved. It's a little bit more of like a journal with your friends. Um,
And is it still as popular as it was?
yes, primarily with the younger generation. So like,
That's cool.
yeah, younger millennials and Gen Z regularly use Snapchat more as like a messenger app.
Hmm.
you know, yeah. I forget.
So,
Was
what
there
about
another?
the other platforms?
So the other platforms, as far as mistakes, I would go back to that original, well, not original, but there's imperfections versus not trying. The other 2 platforms like TikTok, Instagram, they really do want you to try. So if you're showing that you're trying, that's good. But being kind of lazy about it, like, well, I tried to lip sync, I got most of the way there. Here's the video. That's not as engaged with.
I do most of my work in raising executive visibility on LinkedIn, and I would say kind of the same thing about LinkedIn, that I think it's a good thing to show your vulnerability and
Mhm.
authenticity in your content. Um, and also what you've learned
Yes.
along the way. And I think that really reaches people. I know at the posts that I ghostwrite for clients, the
Mhm.
ones that give tips that are based in real world experiences are like a magnet. They
Yes.
just really attract the audience because they feel like they're like the person is really speaking to them,
Right.
and sharing a real live experience.
Yeah, because I think we've had enough years of people pretending to be perfect. I think kind of as a social media society, we're like, show us what's really happening. Give us the
Yeah.
real tea.
But is that hard to do? I mean, is it hard to formulate those kinds of messages for brands and for service oriented companies?
It is, because it depends on the comfortability of the brand owner, the company owner, and sometimes people aren't quite there. They don't want to even show pictures of themselves or things like that. But I think when it comes to a brand, it's different. You're not showing the vulnerability of the brand, right? You're showing the authenticity of the brand. So you're showing off the employees, right? If let's say a retail space, um, do little interviews with each of the employees to say, what do you love the most about working here? What is the behind the scenes secret that no one would know, but it just makes your day light up every day, Um, so it's a different approach to get the same feeling of um, relatability and like
Hmm.
deeper understanding than just I'm a brand, I sell this thing, I need some customers, come this
Right.
way.
Right. So that's where another thing comes in that seems to be something that's trending, and that's storytelling.
Yes, yes. Storytelling definitely took off during the pandemic on TikTok, and who doesn't love a good story? You know? So I don't see this going away anytime soon. Um, but it's kind of what I was just saying about the like behind the scenes element. Like, okay, story time. Here's what happened today, and really finding a way to bring humor or relatability or humility to like something that happened in your day that probably has happened to lots of people. You
So
know.
how does your team help brands to develop that narrative, Lauren?
Yep. So we dig into the brand standards, the mission, the vision, figure out who they are as a company, and then who they're trying to reach. So are you trying to reach millennials? That's very different than if you're trying to reach boomers or Gen Z. So tailoring the message to who they're trying to reach out to and become, gain affinity from. Then we go to those business goals. So now what do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish with this social media profile? We can do so many things. It's almost like the options are endless. you know, but we need to narrow it down to something so that we can stay on the same page. So we narrow it down to those 3 goals, figure out a way to measure those goals, and then just start creating content, um, engaging with the audience, running those ads. Those 3 things, creating content, running ads, and engaging with the audience is really the secret sauce.
Hmm. What is I'm not sure I totally understand this particular trend, the rise of de-influencing.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that goes back to millennials making a living off of being influencers and saying, you know, um, I don't really want to pick up a product here, but just maybe it starts off with, I really love this brand, so I'm going to talk about it, and then hopefully that brand will give me a sponsorship. But then it turns into this brand reached out. I don't really care who they are, what they do. If it's a good product, like I need that money or I want that money, right? And so then it slowly goes into a business versus how it started as a person recommending things. So again, Gen Z saw that and was like, well, how can I trust you? If all these brands are paying you, are you qualifying these brands? Or are you just taking money from anybody? Because that makes a big difference on whether I can trust you or not.
Right.
So this de-influencing trend kind of came as a backlash to that to say, let's talk about the brands we don't like. Let's talk about the brands that have not kept their promise with us or that were really disappointing in how they reached out to us, how their customer service was when I reached out to them. So it's shining a light on um, kind of what people used to do with comments. They'd be like, well, I'm going to go tell all my friends that I don't like this brand.
Yeah.
But now this is a video. This is going viral. It's a whole different thing. Um,
Do you find that most brands respond to that?
I
If
think,
somebody put out a video or content that was derogatory?
I think a lot of brands are still figuring out how to do that. I the way I look at it is if what they're saying is true, let's address it. Let's fix it. Let's talk to this person. Let's show publicly that we're owning up to this. If it's a lie, if they're just making things up, then I think you can decide whether or not you want to respond, right? Sometimes putting more fuel to the fire makes things
Right.
worse. And sometimes if you ignore it, it will just kind of quietly go away. So if it's not true, you kind of have some options. But if it is true, you definitely need to be addressing it.
Now, have on Facebook, have hashtags gone away or are they important?
Hashtags on Facebook are gone back, gone back. It's so
Because
funny.
I know the same thing is on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been
Mhm.
recently reevaluating their hashtag policy, and I was told that hashtags are not as important because now they have AI that can sift through your content and kind of identify what key topics you're talking about.
100%. Yeah, I think hashtags have kind of become a habit at this point. And so some people use them on Facebook, some people don't. There is a hashtag search feature on Facebook, so if that's something your audience will do, by all means, use hashtags. Um, Instagram don't really need hashtags anymore, again, for the same reason.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
people used to load up their Instagram
Oh
posts
my
with tons
gosh.
of hashtags.
I know. Yeah, it was like you have up to 30, so people would do up to 30. It was kind of
So no
crazy.
more.
No more, you don't need them because
I
they
did not
want
know that.
you to put the keywords in the caption. So the same thing as LinkedIn, like they're reading the caption and relying less on the hashtags.
Okay, got it. Tell me about the shift to text-based messages for brands and services.
Like texting,
Yeah,
um, shift from where? Just like that is becoming more popular?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's about that intimacy, right? When email marketing first started, there wasn't a lot of people doing email marketing, but now there's a ton of people doing email marketing, right? And they're not just sending you one email once a month, they're sending you an email once a day, once a week. It gets to be overwhelming. So where you had that direct connection with the consumer or customer, then it's diluted a little bit, and you have to fight for them to see it. So you either have to be like the email that they love the most, or you might get lost in the shuffle. So texting takes it to that next level because people are always on their phones, right? So
that's
that's one
true.
that you can pretty much rely on getting it delivered, getting it read, and then a certain percentage of getting results back, depending on the
Right, because
brand.
some people will decide to drop the message and block it. So
Mhm.
you also provide kind of a matchmaking service, right? You help your clients to identify the best platform for a specific audience. And what's the thinking behind that, Lauren?
A lot of what we look at is the culture of the platform. So I've been lucky enough to be around since all of the births of these platforms. So I've seen them grow from being brand new platforms to where they are today. And culture is a big thing to me, right? So we look at that first, like does your brand fit with the culture of TikTok, for instance? And then we look at who they're trying to reach. And if they're trying to reach Gen Z or millennials and their brand fits with TikTok, then TikTok is a great place, right? But Instagram is too. Um, or if they're trying to reach more millennials and boomers, Facebook will work, you
Right.
know? So it just depends on who they're trying to reach and kind of what the personality of the brand is. A lot of people are nervous about TikTok because they think they have to do some silly dance or something. But that's not what TikTok is, just like how Twitter wasn't all pictures of food. um, and there's, I'd offer up ideas to brands on, okay, TikTok is not all dances, right? But you might have a goal that TikTok can help you accomplish. Maybe you're looking for interns, right? So then your TikTok becomes the culture of your company, the reason that you need an intern, the intern position, the current intern that's going to train you. And it's just this story that is attracting interns from the internet to you. And TikTok does a great job of delivering content for free if you tell TikTok who you're trying to reach.
Right.
Right? Yeah,
Cool.
so that's a
Um,
huge benefit.
have you seen a decrease in the amount of activity on X?
Yes.
Oh, you have. And are
Yes.
people going to Threads or not really?
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, Threads was kinda dead on arrival. I think it had, like, a little surge, I think a lot of brands hopped on, got their handles, and I always recommend that because you never know. Um, but I don't think it's taken off the way that they wanted it to, and I think X is falling out of favor with a lot of people that really love Twitter, you know?
Because of the politics.
The politics
Yeah.
and the coding, and it's just not what it was.
Mhm.
That culture has shifted significantly. Um,
Interesting.
what
What
do
are
you
you looking forward to in this next wave of social media? What do you think will be coming up?
Oh, I love that question. I think, somebody asked me this, like, back in 2016, and I was like, "The next big app is gonna be video based."
Well, guess what? We're here.
So what am I gonna predict next? Let's see. I think I'm interested in seeing more people, like, embrace the silliness of social media, and falling into that authenticity and that relatability and finding a way to tell their story
To kinda
online.
loosen up a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
social media can be fun and, like, a little silly, but it can also make you money, right? You just have to be able to tell that story all the way through. So yeah, I'd like to see more people embrace it because I think, from the majority of brands that I talk to, they are still nervous about TikTok, and that makes me nervous for them because I feel like this is the time to get onto TikTok. I last year was even better than this year. Is so the longer they wait, the less results they'll be able to get from the get go. If that makes sense.
And finally, my last question for you, Lauren, is how do you make money from your social media campaigns? Like,
Mhm.
how do you tie in the content with sales, and kind of make it work? Obviously, not every campaign will be successful, but the ones
Yeah.
you've run that have been successful, what were the elements that made them so?
Yeah, I think one good example is a brand that we worked with. They were running contests pretty regularly, not once a month, but maybe a couple times a year. And sometimes they would see an increase of followers, but then a slow decrease, So they're like, how can we really get these followers to embrace our brand and stick with us even after the excitement of the contest has worn off? And so what we did was found 10 influencers that were of various sizes, like followerships, right? And then partnered with them to promote this contest. And the contest gave away $1,000, which is very exciting to people.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, plus some products from the brand. So it's a great prize. It's from an influencer that they trust. And it was all happening the same weekend. So the internet was kind of flooded in these little pockets of these influencers, influence to talk about these products, this contest. And it did incredibly well because we had a variety of influencers, not just relying on one
Right.
or two, right? And not just putting all our eggs in the like mega influencer basket and paying thousands and thousands of dollars, right? We're also working with the micro influencers that are local and have, a great handle on this one city. And so, spreading it out across that really worked well. The prize was really lucrative. And then we saw followers for months,
Wow.
increasing. Yeah. So it was the complete opposite of people kind of falling off. And we also didn't see a lot of what you might see during contests where people they participate in the contest with their contest account. So they'll have a duplicate Instagram that's just like
Oh,
Lauren contests. you know?
Right, right. Got it.
And so it's
Got it.
not an account I'm gonna watch every day, but it's the account that I hope I win something on. And so we didn't see that, we saw the real one. So it was all the markers were there, and it was a really great campaign, um, that worked well.
That's great. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being with me today. Aside from your website, how can people reach you? Can they find you on LinkedIn?
100%, absolutely. We've got
Okay,
a business page, Betsy Bash, and then I'm, Lauren E. Ramsey is my little handle on the link.
great. Okay, well, thanks again. And everyone else, please go to my website at wantleverage.com and download Make Your C Suite Stand Out on LinkedIn. And certainly reach out if you're looking to raise executive visibility and credibility at your organization. I'll see